The morning sun peered over the mountain tops, turning the dark blue night sky various shades of orange and pink. The gray clouds began to turn white, and the snow on the mountains glistened brightly. On one side of the mountain was a cave. It was small and compact, and it was hidden well within the rocks. Inside the cave slept a large crystal blue dragon, with white sparkling horns and spikes, and a tail longer and thicker than a Burmese python. The dragon suddenly sat up and spread her large wings as she heard the clicking of claws entering the cave. A small, very skinny gray dragon came out of the shadows. His claws were long and sharp, his jagged teeth curled into a grin. "Bone!" the crystal dragon exclaimed in an annoyed hiss. The skinny dragon threw his head back into a cackle. His cackling soon turned into a bout of painful coughing. The crystal dragon twitched her ears and relaxed her haunches. "That's what you get for scaring me like that," she spat, lashing her tail. Bone finished coughing and chuckled. "Oh, Arctic waves, you're so entertaining," he rasped, sitting down on the floor. "You're scared by your own shadow." Arctic waves batted his ear lightly and playfully. "Did you at least bring back something to eat?" she asked in a nicer tone. The skinny dragon shook his head. "No," he replied, "but I've come with some dire news." "What could be more dire than not finding any food?" Arctic waves cried. Bone flinched at her sudden despair. Both her and him were in desperate need of food. Winter cold had seemed to have taken the best of every dragon, even the strongest, and the shortage of prey wasn't much help either. Mountain prey was becoming extinct, and eagles were flying to the warmer side of the world. "Well," Bone shuffled his talons awkwardly, "Queen Lightheart is dead." Arctic Waves' wings dropped to the floor. But tears started to swell up in her eyes. Bone looked at her in sympathy and affection. He didn't really know what to tell her, which made him even more sad. Her sadness felt like claws raking down his back, scraping against his weak bones. He suppressed the urge to shrink away into the dark floor. He just closed his eyes and tried to dig his claws into the rock. "But she couldn't have died," Arctic Waves wailed. "Iridescent isn't ready to become queen." Bone shook his head again. "Don't beat around the bush," he said calmly, though his voice shook. "You and I both know she is ready." "She can't be," Arctic Waves said softly. "How could she have defeated Lightheart that easily and quickly?" "Because Lightheart loves Iridescent," Bone said flatly. "I bet she let her win. She is her daughter, after all." Arctic Waves scrunched up her snout at that comment. She sighed and moved from her position. A small, smooth egg sparkled as Arctic Waves revealed it. "If Iridescent becomes queen," she began, "then this little dragon will be in grave danger." "Do you think she'll care?" Bone challenged, suddenly turning aggressive. "Do you think this dragon will end up differently than us?" Bone held his tail up, silencing Arctic Waves before she could speak. "Iridescent doesn't care about dragons on this side of the border." Arctic Waves was taken aback by his tone. "Do you not care about our child?" she replied, suddenly raising her voice again. Bone didn't respond. He looked down at his talons. He felt her sadness turn to anger and disgust, and it was directed at him. "The egg will need a hunter," she continued, her wings flared. "It'll need a father." Bone stayed silent. "Are you listening to me?" she yelled. Still silent. "Fine." Arctic Wave scooped up the egg and shoved past Bone. She spread her wings as she neared the entrance of the cave. The sun was all the way in the sky, shining down on the mountain tops. The bright, light blue sky was clear, with no clouds in sight. The ice turned into fresh water under the sun's subtle heat. Arctic Wave stopped at the opening of the cave, as she heard clicking of claws on the stone behind her. "Where are you going?" Bone called, releasing a tornado of worry and sorrow for his bait. He scrambled to a halt as Arctic Waves' cold, blue eyes pierced him with anger. He suddenly felt his heart break into pieces. "If you don't care about our child," Arctic Waves began to take flight, "then I'll find someone who does."